I'm going to give a quick introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to students.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is the first Philly Youth Vote candidate interview for the June 2nd, 2020 PA primary election. We're going to be doing interviews of as many candidates as we can around the city, some at my school and some at other schools. This morning, we have a candidate for the Pennsylvania representative of the 198th District for the PA House of Representatives. Bernard A. Williams. He's going to be interviewed this morning by students at Central High School in my 7th period social science class. So I'm going to click back to the Google Meet here, doing this all online. And I'm going to turn it over to a number of students who are going to ask you some questions. Okay. I'm going to let them roll with it. So Thomas, you're up.
Hello, Mr. Williams. Nice to meet you.
How you doing, Thomas?
Good. I was wondering, could you please tell us a little of your background, education, and experience?
Yes. So I graduated high school back in 2013, which was not very long ago. Out of high school, I started working in politics. I started off with an internship for a state representative. 3 months after that, I became a district coordinator for that district, which is here in Philadelphia. A few years later, I became a COO of a nonprofit here in Philadelphia called Making Our Lives Easier, which provided resources and information to underrepresented communities. From there, I started to get a little bit into campaign work here in the city and in the surrounding suburbs. I was a campaign manager, I was a field director, a canvasser. And then in 2018, I ran for state representative for the first time. So this is actually my second time running for the office. My education, I have associates so far in business administration. And I'm right now working on my BA in business administration with a concentration in finance.
I see. That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Could you please describe the responsibilities and powers of a PA Statehouse member?
So the basic duties of a state representative is we are the legislators that create legislation. We create public policies and try to turn those policies into laws on the state level. Each of us have a duty to represent a portion of a population within the state. So as a state rep for the 198, each district in the state has about 60,000 people within them that we represent. And what we do is we come together as state representatives with our various issues that we see in our districts, and we create laws to make improvements in the lives of people like you. So with that, we also provide funding and resources back to our district. So there's a lot of grants on the state level that we can apply for. There's also money that's allocated to our district for a whole physical year or a physical term. And with that money, we have to make sure that we provide certain resources and redevelopments in our communities and in our districts to make sure that people have, a quality of life. For example, if I was state rep, and I get about, let's say, $100,000, I can put that money towards our streets. I can give a portion of that money to nonprofits or organizations that are helping our communities. I can give that money, a little portion of that money to our schools to have after school programs. So there's various things that I can do with that money. But our main job is to make laws and to make sure that we bring money back to our district, and we make sure that we fight for that money up in Harrisburg so we can have as much money as we can to bring back to our district to help our people.
I see. And why are you running to be the representative for the 198th district?
So I've been a lifelong resident of the 198th district for all my life. I did go to Cheltenham High School and Cheltenham schools for a while. And then I came back to Philadelphia to go to Kappa High School for vocal arts. And with that, After high school, like I said, I started my political career and I began working in my community and being a part of different associations like my park association, my neighborhood association. I'm also part of a district attorney's diversion program for youth who are first time offenders. So as I'm working in my district and, working in my community, I began to see that the main topics that were coming up in those meetings was the lack of leadership and how we didn't have the leadership that we needed for District 198. And I didn't really see anybody stepping up to the plate. And as me, with me having experience in politics, with running campaigns, I felt as though that we needed younger people like myself to run for office. So in 2017, I was about 22, 23. I said, I may be young, but I think it's time that we not only show the city, but we show the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that, you know what, we can have young people like myself govern over districts and really make progression for our state and also the people that's in our city. So I decided to run. We have a lot of young people right now, currently across the whole country, that are state reps, that are city council people, that are mayors, and they're 18, 19, 20, 21, and they're doing amazing work. And I believe that as Philadelphia being one of the top 5 progressive cities in the country, I believe that we need younger people to give a sense of diversity and a sense of balance when it comes to our legislature in Harrisburg.
Great, thanks. David, you're up.
Hi. Okay. So my question is, what can you do to ensure that the city and the state are ready for another crisis where everything has to close down again?
That's a great question. And that's something I've been really advocating for and really talking about on a weekly basis. We have to have some type of emergency plan for when things like this happen in our city. So, one of the things that I want to work on next year, if granted to be the next state rep of the 198, is create legislation or fight for a committee in Harrisburg where we have emergency awareness and preparedness committee where we come together as a committee and come up with a grand plan that we can present to the governor to make law or to make a policy where if anything were to happen going forward, these are the steps that we take to make sure that everyone has a sense of calmness and that it's not just an abrupt shutdown of our state. I believe that because we didn't have a solid plan in place, it kind of put people in a panic. People didn't know what to do, whether they should empty out their savings, empty out their banks, or take all the food off the shelves at the supermarket. So people, because they didn't have that guidance. So my main thing is to fight for a committee up in Harrisburg that we can have an emergency awareness and preparedness committee.
Thank you. All right, next up, Jose, you ready?
Yes. Hello, I'm Jose, and I wanted to. So, we as Central students, we're really lucky enough to attend a school where we are taught to prepare for the SATs and the other state exams. But unfortunately, other schools, especially ones that are in neighborhoods with high poverty and violence levels, they are not as encouraged to help the students with this. So, what is your stance on being required to take the SATs? Like, do you believe they are necessary? And do you feel like these tests provide a racial disadvantage or advantage? Do you have a possible solution for this?
That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked me that. When it comes to standardized tests and SATs, I believe in my district, it is a disadvantage to a lot of our students because we in the city of Philadelphia, and like I said, Central and a lot of those special schools like Girls High and Kappa, we those schools kind of have a little bit more of an advantage because they're for students who are gifted in various things. However, we have public schools in our district and even in the city that are not getting all of the funding and the quality of education that they need. And I believe that a test should not um, describe or basically be the stepping stone for someone to make a decision on whether or not you're accepted to a college. I believe it takes more than that. Everyone learning style is different. You know, some people may be good at taking a test. Some people might be good at, if you give them a topic, they might be able to make something and show that they understand the concept of what you're teaching them. Or some people are just listeners. And if they listen to you and repeat it back to you, they'll understand it. So, we have to use our different styles of learning when it comes to evaluating our students. And that's something I want to bring to Harrisburg to bring attention to, that I believe that we should not base um, you, people going to college or going to the next grade based off of the standardized tests or even the SATs. I believe we should have other options out there for students to take an evaluation, so we know that they truly understand the concepts and the curriculum in the school.
That sounds really great to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Tajay. So something that's really
Hi,
important to me.
Tajay.
Hi. Something really important to me is mental health. And as a student, I wanted to know, what will you do to provide more resources for students' mental health?
That's a great question. So let me just give you a little bit about what I advocate for candidates and just overall people in general. I believe that everyone has to have a balance of life. We go through so many things, as far as trauma, as far as seeing different things in the household, and what maybe some of your friends or some of the students from your school go through on a daily basis. Even now with COVID, a lot of people are going hungry. A lot of people see drug abuse or substance abuse from their parents, or they're getting abused, or their parents are going through a domestic violence situation. And so there's a lot of trauma. And I believe that, with the right counseling, with the right resources to help our students, fight through that or talk those things out and find solutions to help them through those traumas, I believe that we'll have definitely more progression in our students. I think we'll have a lot more success cases when it comes to our students, as far as, being a first time offender, or, having cases of mental health issues. So my goal is to start having more programs in the schools where we have counselors who come in, not just your school counselor, but a counselor that can come in and deal with the trauma that a lot of our students see on a day-to-day basis in our district and also in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Ariana, and so speaking of schools and stuff like that, so what will you do to make sure Pennsylvania schools are fairly funded so that Philly students can get an equal education, kind of like the ones in wealthy suburbs?
Yes, that's a great question. Um, so one of the things that I want to do is we have to decrease decrease our numbers as far as incarceration in our state. We're building more prisons than we are schools. A lot of our money in the state of Pennsylvania goes to the prison system, and so we have to really work on those numbers to bring those down. So that way, a lot of that money that we're putting into our prisons actually go back to our schools. Another thing is with our formula, I believe that it should be based off of not just a whole school district or individual school, but it really should be broken down from how much are we giving to each student in the classroom. Because if you think about it, if you have 30 students in a class and then you have 40 students in another class, and you both, let's say, give them $5,000, well, which class is going to be disadvantaged? It's going to be the class of 30 because they have less students. Um, excuse me, I'm sorry. The class with 40 students. They're going to be the ones that have to suffer because they have more students in that class. If you have a class with 30 students in it, you might have some money left over, but the class with 40, you have to really divide that money up. And now each student is getting less money than a class with 30 students. So we have to make sure that when we're breaking down the funding formula up in Harrisburg, we got to make sure that each student is accounted for and that each student is getting the same amount of money of funding as the next student in their class. So I believe once we break that down and once we decrease the population in our prison system and really start reinvesting into our communities, I believe that we'll have a lot more funding for our schools. It's not going to be easy, because there's a lot of people up in Harrisburg right now who believe that the formula is okay. And that's why you see those schools out in the suburbs, they have a lot more because those people don't think the way that we think in the urban city. But that's the reason why we have to go up, like myself, we have to go up and fight for you guys to make sure to tell them like this is not okay, that your schools get to thrive and they get to be rebuilt every 5 to 10 years, and our schools have to stay the way that they are with asbestos and lead paint and barely having textbooks. It's unacceptable. So those are just a few things that I'm going to work on. Like I said, there's a lot of things that you can tackle under the funding for our schools, but I think those two things will really aid to make bringing more money back to our district.
Hello, back to me again, Jose. And
All right, Jose.
so, from what I'm hearing, you have thought a lot about me and my fellow youth of Philly, but I wanted to know, what would you do to make the biggest impact on our lives as Philly youth?
The biggest impact I think I can make on the youth right now, as a young person myself, is really being the leadership that I think the young people so desperately need and showing up. I know a lot of times, at least with the youth in our district, they're upset and they don't really have appreciation for our leadership and even politics because we don't show up. We don't come to your doors and say, "Hey, Jose, how can I help you today? What do you need help with?" Or Ariana, what can I do for you? Or how's your family? Or Tajay, you're going to college. Is there anything I can do for you as far as a recommendation letter or help you with some scholarships? If I do those things and really show up and hold myself accountable and be a transparent leader, I believe that a lot of the young people will get more involved. And I believe that they'll start to want to help their fellow community in the district. So that's the first thing that I want to do, is really just be a great leader for you guys and be an example and let you know that, listen, you can do this someday. I would love to see more young people, take a lead and really be that advocate, that champion, that leader in their district or in their community or on their block, and really take a stance and help our people. But I believe that we have to have someone that shows that example first, and someone that's going to show up and care about you guys before you want to care for someone else.
Hi, Mr. Williams. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good
So
too.
what is a fun fact about you? Like something like a hobby, an interest, anything?
So you know what's funny? I did a survey yesterday and someone asked me, what are your hobbies? And it took me about an hour to try to figure it out because I'm always doing stuff in the community that I'm really doing stuff for myself. But if I had to pick one hobby, I love to cook. I love to bake. I like to cook. I like to put on my music. I love listening to various music because, like I said, I went to Cap High School for vocals, so I listen to classical. I listen to R&B. I love oldies. I like a little bit of country. So, I love to listen to music and I just love to cook.
That's good. Thank you so much for answering.
No problem.
Hey, Mr. Williams, my name is Job, and I'm part of the
Hey, Job, how are you?
good. I'm part of the voter registration team at Central, so we help.
Excellent.
So we help
Excellent.
people vote, find their voting places, and get them informed. So I would like to ask you, why is it important for young people to vote? especially like us graduating high school, going to college, is being eligible to vote?
I'm going to tell you the main reason why it's so important for you to vote is because when you don't vote, your voice is not heard. And I know some people like, I'm only one vote out of like a million and something people. My voice is not really that heard, but you have to believe on a political side, each and every vote matters to us. There's some elections that come down to 2 votes, 5 votes. Every voice is important. And a lot of times when you guys as young people, not saying you, because you're on it, you're doing the voter registration, you're trying to get people engaged, that's great. But there's other people out there who don't vote. And so some elected officials, not myself, tend to say, well, if this population of people don't vote for me, I'm not really going to provide the resources and information that they need to help them in their lives because they didn't really come out to vote for me. And I think that's the gap that we need to bridge between the older generation and young people, because it's like, well, the young people don't come out to vote. It's only the seniors. You know, the seniors, they do everything. So let me cater to them. Let me go to the senior homes and give them little goodies and, you know, butter them up. But it's like our young people are the next generation. We are the next generation. So it's like you have to get us ready, whether you believe that we vote or not. You got to want to get us engaged and want to get us to vote. So it's so important that, you know, for you guys on this call to talk to your friends and get them engaged, because your voices are important, because you guys are the next generation. You know, after my generation, it's you guys. And then after your generation, it's a generation that comes after you. So we all have to make sure that we bridge those gaps between the generations and make sure that everybody is equally getting the resources that they need to live their quality of life. So I'm urging you to go out to vote. But like I said, it's so important because without your vote, like I say all the time, there is no hope for our future.
Mr. Williams, thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Jumping in here. Thank you to my amazing students for asking you those questions. Do you want to just say any last words before we sign off here?
Yes, I do. Listen, guys, I appreciate this platform. I would love to see this in more schools. I am so proud of all of you. I know that some of you might be graduating this year and going off to college, and I know that it's a rough time for you because you don't have a graduation, you don't get to go on prom. So, you know, just keep your heads up. If anybody wants to get in contact with me and ask me more questions or get involved with our campaign, you can always call our office at 267-282-1460. I'm on all social media. So if you have an Instagram, it's Bernard A. Williams. If you have a Facebook, it's Bernard Williams, the number 4, PA. And like I said, you know, please reach out to me if you have any more questions. But like I said, I'm really grateful for you guys to have me as one of your first candidates to talk to you. And I wish you guys the best of luck with this. You're going to hear from an array of candidates all over the city that's doing amazing things. So I'm excited for you guys. But like I said, if you have any questions or concerns, please visit my website as well, www.bernardwilliams4pa.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And you have a great day.
Thank you.
Great. I'm going to just switch over to my presentation here to wrap it up.
Okay.
Just with about how to register to vote in case students haven't done that yet, and how to vote by mail, which is incredibly important. So just thank you to Bernard A. Williams, candidate for the PA Representative, 198th District.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
No problem.
And to register to vote, you need to go to tinyurl.com/PAVotes2020. If you're 18 and a U.S. citizen by June 2nd, you can register online. The registration deadline for this June 2nd election is this coming May 18th, so it's coming up. You need to register soon. Because of the coronavirus, a lot of the polling places are going to be shut down. In Pittsburgh, 90% of the polling places are shut down. So people are applying to vote by mail. In order to vote by mail, you do have to apply ahead of time. And so you need to do that, I would say, as soon as possible, because the commissioners need to mail you a ballot. And then you fill out that ballot and mail it back to the commissioners to vote. You can do that all from home. So online, you can do that at votespa.com. And if you don't have a pen.id, driver's license, which a lot of students don't, you can download the paper application at the same website at votespa.com. If you don't have a printer or a stamp or an envelope at all, at those things at home, you can call our commissioners, 215-686-1590, or vote at phila.gov, and they will mail you a paper application along with a stamped envelope to return it. So take care of that. Vote by mail. Be safe. And if you want to get involved in getting people at your school to register to vote, you can join Philly Youth Vote. Send me an email at taquinn@philasd.org. If you want to get students to vote citywide, people to vote citywide, join Vote That John. And then if you're interested in the nationwide campaigns to locally and national to get peers your age to vote when we all vote. It's so important. Please go vote. Thank you all. Have a good day.